Michigan. It's taken us a long time to get here, a lot of years of work and research, but you know, we're finally here, and it's good to be here. This is Chris Stewart. This is my other associate, Casey Rubinoff. Chris Young and Tommy Schultz will all have a little bit of information for you today. I'd like to begin today with a story. It's not a happy story, it's a sad story, and it's about the life of Megan Conca. Megan was 7 years old, just your average girl living in Trenton, New Jersey. One day she was outside playing, and a neighbor lured her into his house with the promise of seeing a new puppy. When Megan was inside of this house, he raped her, threw her against a bookshelf, and suffocated her with a belt. After this, he took her and he put her in a wooden box and dumped her by a local park. The next day, her body was found, and the man, Jimmy Timidakis, was arrested. Jimmy was a two-time child molester, and Megan's family had no previous knowledge that he was living across the street from them. Shortly after, Megan's Law was enacted, and it's one of the first measures to work against child molestation. Its job is to prevent further cases by informing the public of where these people live and information regarding their whereabouts at all times. But despite Megan's Law's advantages, it does have some disadvantages. Megan's Law, although it is a good source of information, it works to alienate the individuals who have committed these crimes. And so much like felons who can't get work once they return back to society, these people's information is out there on the web. So everybody knows where you live, everybody walks across the street from you, everybody avoids you. And so they become social outcasts. A Columbia University academic journal tells us that Megan's Law is effective for deterring first-time offenders. But for repeat offenders, it does, as I said before, as an alienation and a social outcast effect. And so it actually makes them feel as if life is so worthless that what would it hurt if I did it again? So I think also it's important for us to know what the difference is between some of these words we're going to be using today. We're going to be using three main words: pedophiles, sex offenders, and child molesters. A pedophile is a person 16 years or older who is attracted to primarily or exclusively to children under the age of 10 who have not yet reached puberty. The American Psychological Association has included pedophilia in its Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders since 1968, so they do consider pedophilia to be a mental disorder. So these are some sick people, and unfortunately there are no cures to this problem. The only two solutions that I could find was that people had to see therapists or had to exercise self-control. And people who have problems like this, I don't know if therapy or self-control can always be the most effective method. WebMD.com tells us that a sex offender is someone who is convicted of a sexual crime. A child molester could be defined as someone who acts as a way towards the children, and a pedophile is defined as someone who has those thoughts. So pedophile is more thoughts, and child molestation is actions. Our group today would like to propose a law that states that individuals who commit child molestation serve their maximum jail sentence and are not released early on parole or any other reason. We feel this for a number of reasons. First, because we know that 2/3 of individuals who go to jail will return to jail within a few years. Also, there's no defense for child molestation because you don't know who the individual is. It's not like they're wearing a special hat or anything. And you don't know if they're interested in boys or girls, and there's really no way to defense against it. And so we feel that individuals who commit these crimes should spend the maximum amount of time behind bars and serve their full sentence. Next, I'm going to pass it over to Chris, and he's going to talk about the economic issues that deal with child molestation.
Thank you, Shane. I want to talk to you guys today. It's not as heavy as what Shane talked about, but I want to talk about money. What child abuse does to our society economically, and how we can prevent child abuse through our proposition, and how by doing this we'll be saving money as a society and working towards helping or putting money into other programs that could be used in healthcare other than helping people who have been victims of child abuse. First of all, I want to start off with telling you guys something about the costly long-term effects that child abuse has on the victims. According to Nancy Conrad, who's an author in the Journal of Health and Human Services Administration, 20% of child abuse victims at some point in their life will require one of the following or all government-funded services, including social services, counseling, and outpatient mental care. These services are generally funded by the government and are widely based on helping people who are victims of child abuse. These same victims also experience lost productivity while receiving help from medical professionals, mental professionals, and this lost productivity, according to the same study, ends up being about $5 million throughout their entire lifetime. That's $5 million that would have been generated by this one individual in our economy. That's $5 million that they don't get to see in their lifetime because of what they experienced. So by raising the maximum sentence on child abuse, hopefully we can deter further offenses, and these people that are victims won't be needing these services, and they will be able to see the income that they would have made throughout their lives. You might be wondering, how does this affect us as a society? Well, according to Prevent Child Abuse, which is one of the leading national organizations to fight against child abuse and make the public aware of child abuse, in 2001, which is quite a time ago, the estimated effects of child abuse on our society economically were $69 billion a year. If you guys could only imagine what that number would be if that study were done in a recent year or even today. So next I want to talk about how, by maximizing prison sentences for child, for child abusers, we can reduce the offenses and overall cut down on child abuse. First of all, by maximizing prison sentences, anyone who has not committed the crime before would, knowing that these prison sentences are much longer, sometimes lasting 40 years to a lifetime, they would think twice before committing a crime such as abusing a child for the first time. And like you might be thinking, like Shane said, most offenders are going to return. They're going to go back to and commit the same crimes that they did once they're released. So by maximizing prison sentences, we can make sure that those offenders are locked up and that they stay locked up for a majority of their lifetime, so there will be less of them on the streets. Finally, I would like to conclude how, by raising these prison sentences, we can help our society economically. First of all, there will be less money spent on treatment of the victims, and there will be less victims seeking treatment through government-funded agencies. Second of all, the cheaper alternative to treatment is prevention. If we can stop it in the first place by spending money on prevention, such as the Prevent Child Abuse organization does, they have websites, they have drives that they call people in and they teach people about what child abuse is and how to prevent it. We can save money by not having to treat it afterwards. And finally, by saving money as a system and at the government level, we can help to balance the budget, which we heard in the other speech today about marijuana, how California and the United States, we all know, is in a big deficit. So next up, I'd like to hand it off to Casey, who's going to talk to you guys about repeat offenders.